Hello, everybody on Diplomacy Direct. Let's talk about Doklam today. We are starting a knowledge series with Diplomacy Direct for our defense aspirants, UPSC, or any other public service exam candidates for a quick reference. The best part about it is that we'll have the experts on the subject talk to you directly. This is our efforts towards national service and putting out quality knowledge content. If you like our content, please like and subscribe Diplomacy Direct. Today we have our honored General Sudhakar Jee. Okay, sir. So for starters, let's start with the basics. So which are the disputed parts that China historically claims from Bhutan?
Good morning, Vipul. Firstly, I must thank you and grateful to you for having invited me to your channel. And I must compliment you and your team for having started this knowledge package. And since you have invited me, I am actually highly elated and flattered. Now, coming straight to your question, before I answer your question as to which are the disputed portion of the boundary between Bhutan and China, very quickly, if you allow me, I would like to orientate our viewers with the broad outline of Bhutan. How does Bhutan look like to geography? You see, Bhutan as a country, along the China border, it is approximately 277 kilometers long border. And along India, the border extends up to a distance of approximately 699 kilometers. Towards India side, Bhutan has got a very small border with Sikkim. It has got border with West Bengal, that is towards the Siliguri corridor. It has border with Assam. It has border with Arunachal Pradesh. Now, Bhutan is such a country. If you actually take a crow flight distance and measure, you'll find that the length of the country is just about 300 kilometers, maybe max 350 kilometers. And the width, that is the north-south, is roughly 150 kilometers. And next and most important point for our viewers to understand is that Bhutan is a country where the the front face of the slope are facing towards India. The height actually ascends from, let's say, 200-meter low mountains or hill features. It keeps on picking up height and goes towards the northern border up to a height of altitude of 7,000. You can well understand. So towards India side, it is gradual. So naturally, it is configured in a manner that it is on a hillside, slopy side of a mountain feature, which is actually biased or leaning towards or opening towards India. These are few issues that I wanted to share with you. And more than that, be aware that it has a population of 750,000. At places you will find 800,000. And out of these 800,000, you have a good number of Indians who are working for different kinds of hygiene projects, around 60,000 or more than that, maybe because of COVID pandemic, people will come back. And also, interestingly, you will find at places like Funsiling and all, 8,000 to 10,000 people, they transit, go from India side to Bhutan and come back by evening. These are all daily laborers' tension. So having said this, there are two important things I would like to, before I come straight to the question. The important things are, there is a thing that our viewers would have heard about the Macmillan line. Macmillan line was based on the concept of watershed, the boundary of the border aligned along the watershed, the highest feature from which the water flows down from the catchment area towards the riverine geographical borders. So there are two important rivers which will come handy and for ease of understanding. One river is towards India side, which is the Tista River. The other river is known as Amachu, or in short they call it that Mochu River. Torsa Nala and Mochu River, they join together and flow towards the north. This has to be understood because based on these two water systems, a lot of descriptions will be given by them. Now coming straight to your question. Sorry, I have taken time, but I thought this would be important for the viewers to understand. The question which you have asked is, what are the disputed territories along the border between Bhutan? Ladies and gentlemen, and the students, this border which I have said is 470 kilometers. Essentially, till about say 2021, early part of 2021 or mid 2020, the disputes were narrowed down to two places. One is the central Bhutan. The other one was actually the western or northwestern Bhutan. The central Bhutan essentially has got an area of 495 square kilometers. It consists of two areas. One is called as Doklam. The second one is called as Lung Valley. These are two valleys and two different pockets, totaling to 495 square kilometers. I would like to kill the point here and now that whichever area is a disputed area being claimed by China, China has very cunningly has already occupied. It has come and made infrastructure in these areas. And it is just a matter of formalizing this particular thing by means of some kind of understanding or documents or agreement between people. So this is as far as the central Bhutan is concerned. The central Bhutan northern portion is very important to me. Very, very important. This itself is a different package. We'll cover it later. But suffice to say, Bhutan is sensitive and is very important to me. So come to northwestern Bhutan. Northwestern Bhutan has got four different areas. One is Doklam, which is approximately 89 square kilometers. Second is the Sinchula or Sinchulumpa. It is not very far away. It is on the same water. The third is Dramanna. And the fourth one is Shakato. All these four areas put together, the total land mass over here comes to roughly around 269 square. This is that part of the area where you have a road coming from down below, climbing up to a plateau kind of a thing, which is around 99 square kilometers. The road comes right opposite Dokala post. There is a post towards India side, side. From Dokala post, there is a track. Earlier, a track used to exist for about 7 to 8 kilometers, up to a people known as Bantari Ridge. This is where the dispute actually started. They wanted to make a road opposite Dokala post of India, and it goes along the same ridge line, skirts around, goes towards Sanala, thereafter climbs up to a Jampuri. Jampuri Ridge is that strategic feature which overlooks Srigiri Corridor. Shortest distance is roughly around 11 to 12 kilometers from the nearest point of Srigiri Corridor, and the farthest point is anything between, I think, 18 to 21 kilometers. Okay. So far, so good. I finish off with this particular part, that is, Doklam area is 269 square kilometers. There is a third area which has actually come into being from middle of 2020, wherein China has revived its claim over the eastern, the huge chunk of land towards eastern Bhutan, which is in the Kashina area. It's a wildlife sanctuary. It's right south of Taiwan. So these are the three important areas where China has been claiming, or these are the disputed areas between Bhutan and China. Back to you.
Okay. So, sir, how did this region and boundaries, first of all, come into existence? So, a bit of a historic account from your end, and can you give us, how is it significant from today's perspective?
Okay, the historical perspective, Vipul, it's a very interesting question you have asked, and really relevant for the viewers. You must know that at some point in time, the British Empire, after having come and established itself in India, East India Company, thereafter the empire actually had come. They were looking for different avenues to connect with neighboring or adjoining countries from commercial and trade point of view. When they approached Bhutan at that point in time, Bhutan flatly refused. And thus, the British Empire was compelled to launch an offensive, a kind of a conflict with Bhutan. Bhutan lost the war, And it actually led to kind of an agreement between the British Empire and the Bhutan. And thereafter they started the trading with the Tibet. Tibet, seeing this particular conflict as a response, but at many places in literature you find, in retaliation to this particular effort, it was an aggressive measure by the British Empire. What they did, they established in the Chumbi Valley, opposite Doklam, they established the first post. It was occupied by the military personnel. So that is how the configuration of face-to-face opposite deployment started out. While the intention was actually to go in and connect with a neighboring country from the trading point. So this is the start point of a historical perspective between Bhutan and Tibet as far as the trading and commercial activity. Back to you.
Okay. So, sir, basically from just elaborating that point is that Tibet was under the region of Tibet that you just spoke about was under the tyrannical rule of the King dynasty. Yes. And there was this 3-point pact that actually happened after the Anglo-Chinese Convention, that is 1890, which actually even today upholds the integrity of the borders that they have marked back then between Sikkim, Tibet and Bhutan. And so like you rightly said, so the British started with the trade route towards Bhutan, and then the existence of this region was, the significance was known. So, sir, where did actually all the border disputes started?
Okay. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting question you have asked. The border dispute actually started way back when India became independent. Bhutan was one of the first countries to have recognized India's independence. Thereafter, it was a monarchy. Absolutely. The absolute monarchy transited to kind of a constitutional monarchy in the pre-partition. During British time, the status of Bhutan was that of a protectorate state, meaning British Empire is to give guidance as far as the foreign relations, defense, etc., etc. Arms, weapons to be imported, etc. And by and by, when it became actually a constitutional monarch or monarchy, a bicameral system of the parliamentary democracy prevailed. Now, why am I giving this perspective is in order to understand how did the dispute actually commence. China, which started after having signed the agreement on 23rd May 1951 with the Tibetan delegation, the Chinese had become the de facto sovereign power over Tibet. But the withdrawal of our own posts, we had at Tigatse, we had one at the Valley itself during the British Empire, until we withdrew these elements of the post in 1954. After having withdrawn these posts from 1954, China started expanding towards the border areas of Tibet and started deploying their troops along the border area. When they started deploying the troops along the border areas, the problem came into light sometime by about mid-80s. The Deng Xiaoping was in power in the year 1970. In 1978-79, the basic issue came to light that China, he was working on the premise of building up the economy. Okay. Economy and military, these are the two things that he wanted, his primary aim was this. So China had started actually coming and expanding itself towards the adjoining countries, given the fact that its time-tested historical policy of maintaining internal stability was based on putting your neighboring countries to subjugation and keep them under oppressed kind of a government. So this was the start point when they came into Bhutan. Today, another perspective I would like to share with you. Bhutan is one of the very few countries in the world which does not have a diplomatic relationship with any of the P5 countries. China is a P5 country, doesn't have diplomatic, neither with France nor with UK nor with US, neither with Russia nor with China has been actually becoming desperate to have some kind of a diplomatic. Today they have a relationship with 52 countries and the European Union. However, China, by virtue of its hegemony, expansionist policy, and also encroaching gradually by means of sending graduates inside and expanding towards the neighboring country. Primary aim of China is to actually secure a foothold at Doklam. Basically, to widen the narrow funnel of the Chumbi Valley. The Chumbi Valley is a very narrow kind of a cone of the funnel. At the pipe of the funnel, it wants to widen it. In order to widen it, it is eating into the portion of the Bhutan which is close to Doklam. That is the primary aim. So in order to claim this, they have given a package deal which I'll cover subsequently. Back to you.
Okay. So, sir, as you touched upon the Mochu side, the Mochu River, and this thing, and where the treaty claimed that the boundary between Sikkim and Tibet shall be the crest of the mountain range separating the waters flowing into Sikkim Testa and its tributaries from the water flowing into the Mochu, the one that you create, and then northwards into the river of Tibet, where right now in the modern cartographic studies has found out that crest actually ranges from the Merungla compared to the Gipmochi, right? And hence the tri-junction falls at Batungla and the border of Bhutan that will run along the northern ridge of Doklam, and then it holds the critical Jamperi ridge that you covered some time back. So, putting all of these things into perspective, sir, can you elaborate the Chinese claim over the region?
Oh, very nice. In fact, you have very nicely covered the question you missed out. You see, the Anglo-China Agreement, a convention of 1890, essentially had three stakeholders who were party to the convention. One was the English, the second was the Tibet, and the third was Sikkim. These three stakeholders, they had put the signature. Bhutan, although the territory belonged to Bhutan, was not signatory to the convention. China has been basing its expansionist policy or hegemonist policy, taking advantage or exploiting the gaps in the historical paradigm. They have gotten to the point that Bhutan was not a signatory to it. Yes, there is also another thing. This convention, having realized the mistake, 20 years later, the British Empire carried out a correction sometime in 1910 or 1911, just about prior to the First World War, wherein the Bhutan was brought into the paradigm of the convention, was a member because the territory belonged to Bhutan. This China has caught on to is saying that this 1890 convention, Bhutan was not a signatory. Hence, the territory for which they are claiming it does not belong to Bhutan. Hence, since it does not belong to Bhutan, it belongs to China or the erstwhile Tibet. This is the second part which you covered, if you allow me quickly for the viewers. You see, as per the time-tested policy or a practice world over, whenever a border is to be decided between two nations and there are mountainous features are existing, generally we go by the geographical features. It is the crest of the mountain. If there are high prominent features between two nation states,
Mhm.
then those features are taken as a kind of a rough alignment to decide the border. So accordingly, for this convention, it was clearly written that the crest line between the peak highest watershed point in this ridge line was Merungla, if I'm not wrong. Merungla, sorry.
Merungla.
Merungla, the height of Merungla is 15,266, if I remember the specific. It being the highest feature in the entire region, actually water flows down from this. Some of the tributaries run towards Tista, that is towards Sikkim, yes. And some tributaries they run towards Amochu or Mochu and flow towards north, towards China or Tibet. So what has happened is that China has been insisting on that since the territory does not belong to Bhutan, as they were not signatory to the convention, the territory start point, the tri-party or the tri-junction instead of Batangla that we are mentioning, should be at Gemochin. Gemochin is roughly about 11 kilometers along the same ridge or spine down towards Siliguri corridor, closer to Siliguri. So they are insisting for Gemochin, and from Gemochin, as per them, the boundary goes further into Bhutan, cuts across Bhutan, and takes care of the central portion of the Bhutan thereafter goes. Whereas going by the modern cartographic or survey paradigm, it is always as per the ridge line or the crest line dividing two nation states from the watershed the water flow. The peak or the watershed being this Merungla, which is higher than Gemochin. Gemochin is around 14,000 some couple of feet. Therefore, that should be the boundary. And hence, Batangla is the correct and the right tri-junction between these three states. I hope I have answered the question. Back to you.
Yes, sir. So, sir, can you take us over, now as we are touching base upon the geographic and the historic, can we look at the philosophical or the ideological background which Mao Zedong had created in his five-finger policy? Can you shed some light on that, sir?
Yeah, Vipul, that's very interesting. In fact, the students should get further influenced by the question. Mao Zedong had, when they actually signed an agreement in 2014, if I'm not wrong. People say de jure, I would say de facto sovereign control over the Tibet had actually fallen in the hands of China. After that, Mao Zedong had actually claimed, had given his philosophy that Tibet is like palm of a hand of China, and this palm has got 5 fingers to include Ladakh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. And also he highlighted one aspect, that it is the responsibility of PRC, of China, to liberate all of them. This is the philosophy based on which China has been actually asserting or expanding the sphere of influence economically, militarily, as also practically.
So militarily is all the constructions that are happening, the patrolling, in the Bhutanese border at the Jakurlung and the Pasamlung, and the Chinese claim over Doklam. Actually, the interpretation that you just said, and it actually shows in the maps with Doklam Plateau as a part of the northern sectors under the hard power control of whatever Chinese encroachments are there right now. Until after Mao Zedong, India-Bhutan relations were very strong and against diplomatic relations, or rather no diplomatic relations with China, and that actually instigates China more towards going back to this policy. So, sir, with this, can you take us through the now that we see how so with no political connections with China and good political relations or geopolitical relations with India, can you take us through the border negotiations with Bhutan and China?
Yeah, this is the most, I would say, this is the icing on the cake. The central issue with the border negotiation. Rightly highlight. You see, for our viewers, it is important to share with them
Mm-hmm.
that Bhutan and China, you see, the border talks actually began in earnest in 1990. And by 1990, if I recall correctly, they
Mm-hmm.
had the seventh round. In the seventh round was the start point actually. In the seventh round, China did not indicate. China started forcefully, proposing this package proposal. So what is
Mm-hmm.
the package proposal? The package
Mm-hmm.
proposal was, by then China had willy-nilly, by sending dredgers, by developing roads and tracks, by building accommodation for troops. They had already come into the northern portion of the central sector, northern portion. There's two areas, Jakolong and Pasamlong Valley, 495 crores.
Mm-hmm.
So they started offering, you take this. It was actually, it belongs to Bhutan. But in a way, they had started occupying it. They said, we'll give this to you. You give us the 269 square kilometers of Doklam, which included Doklam, Sencholompa, Ramana, Saka. Those are the four. So between 1990 till 95, a lot of talks continued. The enforcement also continued from Chinese side in an incremental manner. Dredgers started going. They started developing the mobile towers, electric poles, multi-modes of electricity generation, all
Mm-hmm.
these kinds of improving their quality of life. And while all these were happening, 1995, Bhutan actually succumbed to the pressure of China. They agreed. They considered almost it was done. They were about to give this Kunduz Valley to China.
Mm-hmm.
That is the time when India we woke up how sensitive and serious it would be if Kunduz Valley or this would be given to them. Meaning that Doklam Plateau would be theirs. They would come right up to Jammu. There is a bigger aim. When time and situation permits, I'll explain. There is a different perspective which deliberately I am not. Why is China so keen about Doklam? There is a meaning there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's a separate chapter. So in 1996, 11th round of talk, by then India had enough of understanding and pressure on Bhutan. It was conveyed to Bhutan in no uncertain terms. And during the talk between Bhutan and China, Bhutan backed off from the commitment they had given in the previous round, that is the 10th round in 1990. When they backed off, immediately after that, I think in 1998, yes, China and Bhutan again sat down. They said, till such time, pending further talks, they signed an agreement and froze the complete border as on 1990. So after having frozen the border in 1998, negotiations continued. In the process, while the negotiations were going on between two countries, the enforcement continued in form of sending the yaks across, the graziers across. They started claiming and a host of other things. Amachu is a river which has actually witnessed a lot of aggressive enforcement, I would say, as also the central portion. They constructed roads and slowly these two pockets became very, very disputed. And a round of talk also took place, and the expert group they sat down in the year 2016. Two rounds had taken place just prior to the Doklam issue of 2007, wherein they were heading towards some kind of a negotiated stance, and the Doklam case. Doklam finished in the August of 2017. By then, people must understand that when Indian troops stop, as I had explained, there is a track coming from down below up to Doklam Plateau, and in front of Dokala Post, there is a sentry post. Right in front of it, it is touching the sentry post, and along the ridge line goes for 7 kilometers after Bhutan. They wanted to build a road between this particular track in front of the sentry post to Bhutan. Indian troops, they stopped them there. So from the point where they were stopped, the Chinese troops and the construction party where they stopped, from that place, China, incidentally, in past 2 years, there are three, four things which will happen. One, there is an agreement which was signed in the month of October 2020.
Mhm.
And on pressure and inquiry, it was revealed to the environment. There are three steps to border negotiation to settle the border between Bhutan and what is there. The content of this agreement is not known. It has not been made public. But yes, selectively, the experts have laid their hands on. One. Secondly, there is a new land border law which has been promulgated and it has been made effective from 1st of January 2020. Third, as per this land border law, there are 600 villages which are supposed to be constructed along all the land borders. It is not necessary that along Bhutan or along India and China border, all along the land border. They have land borders of 14 countries. So 600 villages. Fourth, some of the villages have started coming up in past 1 to 2 or between say 2017. The moment they were blocked, China redoubled its effort. They said, doesn't matter. So from the place where they were actually blocked by the Indian troops, at a distance of 9 to 27 kilometers at different pockets, construction works have been noticed.
Mhm.
There are about 200 structures which have been picked up by the satellite. These 200 structures, they are at 6 different points. And the 6 points, when you count, actually, there are roads, there are built-up area, there are storage facilities, there are helipads which have come, and the road, instead of coming in front of Doklam towards Wherefores, is also seen that there is a road which is skirting around, going from a different direction and meandering towards the south, towards Siliguri.
Correct. So, sir, as per the Maxar reports, there's a village that you are talking on the Torsa River, which is, the Pangda village, what they call it, which came in just in the 2020 while, all this pandemic had just begun. And there's always also been seen bunkers which are very much near to the Bhutan China border. So we should be actually thankful to the Bhutanese that they did not secede the Kula Kangri peak, which is the highest mountain peak in Bhutan, on behest of India. And sir, so a quick uh, account on the Doklam standoff of 2017.
Well, Doklam standoff, a quick count is lasted for 73 plus or 73 days. Yes, I myself was in the military operation directorate. I was dealing with it. We had anticipated this thing to be happening in this manner in the year 2014. We had drawn the red lines, and the red lines had been circulated, they had been deliberated, wargamed with different ministries in the military operation. And we had decided that they have come up to first red line, fine. Second, they have come up. But this third line or this particular line, beyond this in the row, well, it is India should take a very, very seriously.
Hmm.
And incidentally, India and Bhutan, as per the agreement, we are supposed to, if anything happens to Bhutan from security paradigm, we are supposed to be doing, protecting Bhutan from external and give support towards them. So there are different kinds of clauses and agreements. This had been predetermined. China never expected that India would all its military might of bluff in this way. Never expected that India would be actually holding out so strongly and stoutly and so boldly for such a long duration of time. There is a hidden agenda behind China which is not being talked about in any media. This is my analysis since I'm doing the research. You see, China is very interested. Anything that China does along the LAC has got an ultimate aim of establishing or securing an access in the Indian Ocean. Why?
Hmm.
China's economy and growth as a nation state to rejuvenate itself as a global power or maybe by two. It has to ensure that its economy actually, grows, if not double digit, at least between 9 to 11%, which it had for about 30 odd years, from Deng Xiaoping's time to 2012. So, in order to achieve this kind of a statistical or remarkable kind of a growth rate, it has to have a very safe and secure energy supply. 83% of its gas and oil is imported from Middle East. All this gas and oil, they come through the sea lane of communication from the Middle East to the Indian Ocean and through Malacca Strait, goes up to South China and East China, and thereafter to the Pacific. A distance of 12,000 kilometers. China has been actually eyeing for a shorter distance, a safer corridor, so that they can be transported quickly either by pipeline or by road transportation at a lesser time frame. China-Pakistan economic corridor is total distance from its mainland is 3,000 km. This corridor starts from Kashgar in Xinjiang province, goes up to Gwadar, and this particular axis or corridor, the mainstay or the backbone of the corridor is the Karakoram Pass. This is further joined by a national highway known as G219, it's a western highway. Okay. So, why am I saying this is that similar kind of corridor China has developed across Myanmar. It is known as China-Myanmar Economic Corridor. From Yunnan province right up to Sikkim or capital. Another corridor it is looking for, to my understanding, my research, is this is the shortest distance. Siliguri corridor at the maximum point is 21 kilometers wide, 60 kilometers, and the shortest distance is 17 kilometers. Given the fact that the Chumbi Valley, its pipe is actually pointing towards Banferi, at 10 to 11 kilometers effort, it can actually join, cut across Siliguri corridor, come up to Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, it is also very interesting to share that it has already gone in for constructing 3 ports. They are very, very important issue. Era port, then you have Chittagong port and Ramadi port. There are 3 ports which have been constructed. If you actually oriented along the coastline of Bangladesh and look towards Siliguri corridor and the Jampuri and the Chumbi Valley, then you would realize that yes, it makes some meaning. If it gets connected, then it will have an opening towards Bay of Bengal. It will further reduce the distance. Also, it will avoid the biggest challenge before China today is Malacca. Malacca dilemma is such a thing, it's around 900 odd kilometers long. The gap between Sumatra, Indonesian province, and Malayan Peninsula and the width varies from place to place. And almost about 70% of the trading traffic, all the ships, there are close to 94,000 vessels which cross Malacca Strait every year. Although military point of view, we say 60,000, but going by the civil documents which I was studying for past couple of days to write an article for New York South Asian Times, 94,000 vessels are crossing. And all around Malacca, we have Andaman Nicobar. We already have a tri-service command there. We have Sabang, a base located. We have a place called Changi in Singapore. They have given us refueling facility, basing facility. We also, as we go further, in Philippines, we have an airport. We have a place there, as also in similarly, US has also established bases all around. So he's very scared and apprehensive of Malacca dilemma. And more so, given the kind of guideline, if one has to actually link and derive from Ukraine and Russia war. Everyone thought that the war of the conflict in 10 days. Now it is touching the 4th month. So it is a myth which has actually collapsed. The future conflict, nobody knows how long it will last. Today, China has got a reserve of 55 plus something up the sleeve of the president. Total 60 days of petroleum and gas reserve. If the conflict with China goes beyond 60 days, it has to look for some alternate means to actually ensure energy security for its economy as also for the country.
So, sir, looking at all these issues and all these happenings or events that are, taking place in this region, what do you think that we should strategically do to secure this region Doklam, Chumbi Valley, and so can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, essentially, it is the central portion of our package today. What recommendation do we give to the government?
Mm-hmm.
People must understand that Siliguri corridor, it's a strategic location. It is at the crossroad of the seven sisters, the seven northeastern states. This is the gateway to seven northeastern states. The eighth one is the Sikkim. The road takes off from here itself, Darjeeling. You have a national highway, you have only one artery, that is the railway connection. You have an airport called in Bagdogra. Siliguri itself had turned out to be a huge kind of a cosmopolitan city now. You have people coming down from the hills, from all over, the faraway places, for studies, for medical treatment, etc. etc. as also for employment. They call it Siliguri, the other acronym for Siliguri is Triple T. Timber, tourism, and the third T I'm forgetting if I'm not wrong. Timber, tourism, and tea. And tea gardens, timber, abundance, and tourism. This is the central. So having said that, now this is only 17 kilometers wide at the narrowest. At the widest point, it is approximately 60 years per my calculation, I said 21. And it is 200 kilometers wide. If something happens, well, then our complete seven sisters or the northeastern states are going to be different. So therefore, what are the recommendations? My recommendation is that we should consolidate at Bhutan or the Doklam. No question of allowing China. Also, take up case through Bhutan that they have started building up accommodation, roads, tracks. There is a road taking a different detour and heading towards the corridor. The one which you are saying, Tosa Nala, actually it is on the banks of the Mochu. Okay. So the road is skirting around, it is coming. They are heading towards Siliguri. We need to put a stop to it. We need to lodge protest through Bhutan. We need to think of some other mechanism to put a stop of further invasion of China. We also need to be a food for thought. I'm not saying that we become like China. But yes, US also negotiated with Mexico and went in to buy a chunk of land for $10 billion. Similarly, they had a land deal with Canada, setting the border. Why can't we select such kind of pockets, identify the shoulders, important shoulders, okay, and negotiate and buy the land off from the neighboring country? Third point, I would say. Why not we go in for tunneling? We have underground tunneling across the corridor. Fourth point, a shoulder that the king of Bangladesh, which is pointing towards Siliguri corridor, why not we negotiate with Bangladesh and secure it and take it permanent? Also, the pre-independent connectivity, the railway line, the roads coming from northeast, from Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura, all these places must be opened up. This is the prime time, golden time. Whatever best is possible, we should do during Sheikh Hasina's time. Otherwise, what is going to happen next, nobody knows. It is anybody's guess. And also open up the navigation facility through the maritime boundaries of Bangladesh, like we have established that, and also activate our access and the lines of communication towards Myanmar side, one which is existing as of now, but often it gets interrupted because of Kachin militant activity. So these are the few points I thought I must recommend. Improve connectivity, improve or reactivate the pre-independent connectivity boards which are existing at that point in time with minimum effort. From Guwahati, from Assam itself, we can have quite a few openings which the Ministry of External Affairs is already at it. They're doing a great job, but we need to speed up the process and look into the aspect for a better result and lasting. Thank you. Back to you.
All right. So, sir, we got to know, a lot from you about the issue with Doklam and the Chinese claim and the geopolitics around it. We'll come back soon with another part or other parts of this series where we will take up topics on Chumbi Valley or Aksai Chain or Malacca Strait and so on and so forth. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel to not miss this series. And General Ji, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. And we hope to see you with such insightful sessions for the upcoming sessions also. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Vipul. Well done, and wish you success in the new venture. All the very best.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.